Hey friend, in today's watercolor tutorial, I'm going to be teaching how to paint this landscape of California poppies. Without further ado, let's get painting. For today's tutorial, I'm going to be using Cadmium Orange, Cadmium Yellow, Winsor Red, Prussian Blue, Sap Green, and Burnt Umber by Winsor Newton. I'll also be using a little bit of Winsor Newton masking fluid for our poppies. I have a size 2, size 6, size 16 round brush by Princeton. And then to apply our masking fluid, I'm gonna be using a brush that I don't mind tossing after because it will glue and solidify the bristles together. So definitely don't use one of your higher quality brushes for that. And then the paper I have taped down here is a size 5 by 7 inches. I'll also be using an eraser to rub off our masking fluid as well. First thing I'm going to do is give our masking fluid a good shake. And I use this from time to time. It's definitely one of those supplies that I think can be so handy and useful to have. And I honestly wish I got it sooner into my watercolor painting journey. But I've had it for maybe about a year now. So I want to start to paint our poppies, and the shape of these is going to be kind of loose. We're going to do a few variants of shapes for the poppies, from bloomed to budded poppies. But I'm going to start with kind of doing a rounded petal to begin. So you can kind of see this shape here. It's almost like a heart shape, but it's very rounded, and it doesn't have a divot like a traditional heart would. So it's a very faint yellow, so I hope you can see that well. If not, you can always pause and zoom in on certain areas if needed. Then next, I want to paint a petal. So I'm just going to take my brush and just do a soft, just simple petal connecting to the base here. And then I will do another petal towards the right, but this time this one is maybe a little bit more chunky. And then towards the bottom, I'm just gonna have the bottom elongate a little bit more towards like a point here. So there's our first poppy. Next, I'm gonna do one kind of pointed towards the opposite direction, and it's slightly lower, and it's more of a bud. And this one has a slightly narrow base, and it's simply just a bud. There's no petals coming out on the other side. All right, and then next, I maybe wanna do just a couple more buds. So again, it's just a very simple shape here, where the top is a little bit wider and the base is a little bit more narrow. Almost like a upside down, rounded, like candy corn shape, if you will, or triangle. Okay, and then I'll do maybe another one off over here. Okay. Next, I want to do some that are a little bit more dramatic in their shape. I'm going to do a kind of wavy brush stroke here using the tip of this brush. So this almost looks like a mustache. So I'm starting with this mustache shape. And then from here on either side, I'm just going to do a diagonal line kind of mirroring each other. And then it's going to elongate to a point like so. And then I will just fill that in nicely with the masking fluid. Okay. And then I definitely want to do a more like full, like bloomed poppy. Let's see here, where we can kind of see like the center of it as well. So I'm trying to debate where I should place that. Should I do it over here? Yeah, I think I'm going to plant it over there. So I'm going to start with a rounded rainbow curve, just like that. And then from here, I'm going to do another miniature rainbow curve off towards the left, and another one slightly off towards the right that's a little bit smaller. And then below, I'll do another rounded curve, and it's slightly just barely touching this one. So it's actually not touching at all, sorry. But it's got about a ½ centimeter gap, so I'm being mindful of that. Okay, so there's our fully bloomed poppy shape. I'm gonna take our masking fluid and fill that in. And then I may just want to do another kind of rounded triangle shaped one that's slightly smaller off towards this direction. So very similar to this one, just a little bit smaller for variety. Okay, and then from here, I want to do maybe just one more bud. So maybe I'll have a bud that's slightly like cut off actually by the edge of the page. So I'll do one here, again, just for variety, and it's slightly cut off. And then next, I just want to take my brush and do some thin lines here, and these are going to be our stems. So there's one stem. I'm going to do another thin line, and again, I'm angling it slightly in a different direction. They're not all angled in the same direction. I'm using really light pressure with my brush to get these nice dainty curves. This one here is going to kind of connect to here and then kind of swoop in a different direction. All right, and then our last one is our fully bloomed flower. Maybe the stem kind of interlocks slightly or overlaps on this one. Okay, next, I just want to do a few leaves. And come to think about it, I think we'll just do a few that are in focus. So only a few will require the masking fluid. And so I'm gonna overlap some, starting with the angled line like so, off towards the right. And then I'm just going to give it a few brush strokes on either side, almost like these little subtle dashes. So I start with a rainbow curve, just like that. And then again, just a few simple little wispy dashes on either side. Very loose and simple. Maybe there's a leaf kind of going this direction, coming from the base. And again, rainbow curve, and then simple little dash marks on either side. And then I'll do maybe one more up here. Okay, perfect. So I am just going to let the masking fluid fully dry, and I like to give it at least an hour. I'm actually, to make time go by faster, gonna go run some errands and pick up some more paint at Michael's. So I'll have enough time for this to set and dry, and when we come back, we're gonna create a really loose, watery background with blues, greens, and pops of orange of some poppies that are not in focus in the background. And it's just gonna be a really nice kind of wet into dry and wet into wet watercolor technique that we will be using. All right, to get started on the background, I am first just going to add a little bit of water to our Sap Green, Prussian Blue, our orange, and burnt umber, just to get those colors ready to roll. Next, now that our masking fluid is all dry, I'm just going to use my large brush to apply a bunch of water all the way across the surface of the page, top to bottom. This will allow some really nice wet and wet technique. Okay, I'm now going to add some Prussian Blue starting in the sky. I'm going to start with this right corner. And then I'm gonna apply some over towards the left. I want there to be what appears to be some clouds, so I'm not going to oversaturate too much. So I still want some white popping through, but I will build the contrast with the blue just a bit. So I'm gonna just relayer a little bit of blue in this right corner and a touch of that blue over towards the left here. And then just a little bit over here as well. Again, keeping the shapes just loose using the belly of my size 6 brush. And then from here, I simply want to start to build some of our greenery. So I'm gonna add just a touch more water here. It's got a twinge of blue in it, but that's not a big deal. And now I want to start to add a little bit of greenery towards the bottom inch. So I'm just going to apply a touch of greenery. And next I'm going to, after I apply this kind of wash in the bottom inch, I'm just simply going to add a little bit of texture to the greenery and just use the tip of my size 16 brush using really light pressure. Just adding this really loose texture with the sap green. And again, I'm just doing these really light, wispy, loose brush strokes just to mimic some greenery and texture. And then towards the bottom, I want to add just a little bit of burnt umber. And I'm going to mix a little bit of Prussian Blue with my burnt umber just to get a deeper shading color. And with that, I'm just going to apply, again, just a little bit of loose up and down texture in this bottom inch to inch and a half here, just like that, just to kind of build the depth and the dimension. And then I just want to kind of look at how my sky's doing. I want to lift a little bit of this blue in this area, so I'm just taking a clean brush and just kind of lifting that slightly. Okay. All right, and then from here, I want to take my size 6 brush And using a very concentrated amount of orange, I want to just blot a few bits of orange, especially in areas where it's a little bit lighter, so not so much over the dark green because that would turn kind of a muddy color. But I just want some kind of out of focus poppies. So I'm just simply kind of blotting a few of these really loose shapes, mimicking poppies here that are just out of focus. Some are in between stems here. Okay. Now I'm just kind of blending this green out a little bit. Some of it is kind of getting a little bit puddled with all the water, so I'm just going to kind of buff that out a little bit. And now I simply just want to allow this area to just set and dry, and then we'll be able to add some more greenery and texture. So I'm gonna give it, I would say, about 20 minutes just to kind of set, and then we'll come back. All right, so now the background has fully dried, and I'm gonna use a rubber eraser to simply just apply pressure and rub on the areas that we applied our masking fluid. So I'm just simply going through and just taking care of all of the peeling. Sometimes you can peel it, sometimes it's just easier to rub off with the eraser. Either way is fine, and I'm just gonna carry that process out throughout all the areas that we applied the masking fluid. Okay, now I've brushed off all of the masking fluid, and now we can switch gears to starting our flowers. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my size 6 brush, and we're gonna be using a combination of mostly orange, some yellow, and a little bit of a touch of red, just to have some really pretty highlight colors, using the touch of yellow, and then some shading using a little bit of red mixed with our orange. So let's go ahead and start with this poppy right here. And for this, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the center shape, the center of the petal. I'm just gonna roughly outline this area here using our orange to start. And then I'm going to broaden my brush strokes with the orange, keeping in mind that our light source is coming from this right side. So I've got my orange just like that, mainly on the left side and just a touch of it on the right. And then to add a pop of highlight, I'm just gonna take some yellow and add our yellow in this in-between area, this little white gap here, as a little bit of dimension and pop of color. All right, while that sets and dries before we do the petals on either side, I want to get started on this flower. So don't mind, we are hopping around a little bit here. So this one's going to be a little bit simple, more of just like a cone shape. Doesn't necessarily have petals coming out of it quite yet. So I'm going to outline the outer edge the most with the orange here. And then on the right side, I will do a touch of orange as well. And in this gap here, you guessed it, I will fill that gap with some yellow. I'm gonna curve the top a little bit just to give the shape a little bit of variegation. Okay, so there is that flower. And similar concept for all the buds. On the left side, and I could do them almost all at once, I'm going to have the first third on the left side be orange, and then just outline the right side with the orange. And then just a little bit on the right again. Okay. Just gonna clean this edge here real quick. All right. And then from there, I'm just gonna go in with some yellow and just fill in that white gap with a pop of yellow. And again, the orange is still wet when we add this yellow highlight, so it has like a softness to the blend of the yellow and the orange transition. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add, I'm just gonna tap here, that's just about dry. We can now add some petals over here. So I'm just gonna outline this petal on the left side, and I'll outline this petal on the left side as well. And then from there, I'll just fill in with our yellow. All right, before we move on to anything else, I want to add a little bit of our orange and red combo. So for that, I'm just kind of buffing out this orange that I put there. For that, I'm simply just going to take a good amount of orange and mix it over on my palette somewhere. I need to clean my palette up a little bit. I'm gonna add that with just a touch of Winsor Red. Winsor Red is very potent, so I just want a slightly deeper red here, so, or deeper orange, sorry. And I'm just gonna apply that towards the bottom slightly and just outline the left side of this petal, and then just a little bit towards the right, just to help kind of define and add a little bit of shading. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this red orange towards the left of each of our buds. I'm gonna add some on this one here, and then just a touch over on the left side of this poppy here. That would be my dog drinking water. She's vocal. Anyway, she's super sweet. Okay, and I'm just gonna add a touch on this left petal, or the left side of this right petal. And there is our shading for our poppies. Now we can move on to these ones over here. I'm gonna start with, again, outlining this main petal using just the plain orange for now. And I'm going to fill in the orange to almost, this looks like about halfway, and then outline the right edge. And then from here, I'm going to fill in this white area with our yellow. I'll just let that set just a little bit. And then I'm gonna pre-mix a little bit of our red orange just so it's ready. Okay. Now let's go ahead and start our more complex poppy over here. For this one, I simply want to start with just loosely sketching our petals. So I'm going to start by doing a rounded curve and then outlining the bottom as well. And then over here, I'll do another petal. And again, I'm just doing a soft curve and then outlining the edges with orange. This is just to get kind of our basic foundation. And here, same thing, just a hint of orange, a little bit here, but mainly highlights of yellow there. And then I will add some more broad orange over towards the left here and just a little bit towards the top. Okay, and now I'm gonna grab some yellow. I'm gonna fill in our yellow, allowing the orange to kind of bleed into the yellow. And we're definitely going to utilize a good amount of our shaded color of the orange-red combo. Okay. And then over here on the left, I'm just going to add our orange and then just fill in with our yellow. Again, similar pattern. Okay, and then before this fully sets, I'm gonna grab our red orange and use that to shade some of our petals here. Just like that. And then I want to shade this lower petal more. Just going to loosely outline this petal shape with a little bit more of that red and just help kind of define the center of our petal just by doing a couple brush strokes on the left and right side of this main petal and then shading the left side just a little bit more, just to kind of help define the poppy. Okay, and then we will add some detail in the center of this one once that flower has dried. And I just realized we have a partial poppy over here, so I will just fill that with a touch of orange and then a little bit of yellow on that right edge. And in order to not have the green stems or leaves bleed into the vibrant orange, I'm just gonna let this set for a few minutes and dry. And when we come back, we can do our stems and our leaves. Okay, so everything is set. The last thing as far as the poppies go that I want to do is take my size 2 brush and use our red orange. And I'm just going to tap just a few, just loose texture, just little dots in the center of this poppy, allowing some of the yellow to pop through. And that just gives one last little detail just in the center right there. And next up, I'm gonna grab my size 6 brush and make a yellow green. So I'm just gonna mix up a good amount of my sap green and add a good amount of yellow to it. Okay, so now we've got this nice vibrant yellow-green. And as our base color for the leaves and the stems, I'm simply just gonna color in the white areas here using this kind of more lime green. And then when we come back, after all of this is filled in with this lime green, we will add some shaded green to it just to make the green look a little bit less flat. But here I'm just filling in the stems, the leaves, all these white areas with this green color. So we could just take our time with that and just being mindful of our brush strokes and the pressure with our hand so we don't go too over any of the lines. But I'm just gonna go ahead and fill in the rest of this white area with our lime green. Okay, so now that we fill in our white areas with the lime green, I want to make our shaded green color. So I'm going to use a good amount of our sap green and I'm just mixing it into whatever's remaining of the green that we mixed before. Then from here, I'm going to mix a touch of Prussian Blue into this green mixture so that way it just deepens this nice blue color or this green. We've got a nice rich green, and then I'm going to rinse off my size 6 brush and carry on the rest of this with my size 2 brush. All I'm doing is adding an outline on the left edges of each of our stems. And it's okay if the lime green is still slightly wet, that's not a big deal. And then keeping in mind, I'm going to shade kind of the left sides of our leaves just a little bit with this darker color, just to add a little bit more dimension and texture. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing over on this leaf over here, just mainly on the left bottom sides of the leaves here. Okay, and I'm just going to carry on this process throughout, just shading the left side of our stems and our leaves just to give it a little bit more dimension. And then you could see the lime green is where the sun is hitting the foliage. Thank you so much for joining me for today's watercolor poppy landscape tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed this one. Be sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any further watercolor landscapes on my channel.